Hello everyone, and welcome to Outside. The series, of course, going outside zombies maps such as Shaolin Shuffle, which we have on our plate today. I am super excited for this one, and it's been on the list for a while, so let's hop right into it. I am using a modded client here in IWZombies that allows me to do things such as turn on God mode, as well as no clip, so we can fly on up into the sky and take a look at this map from a very different perspective. And it looks like there is a lot to see. But as always, let's hop on into spawn here and take a look at some window locations to start things off. First of all, I just want to see like what's going on in this whole train situation. So full disclosure, as we're just checking this out, I have barely played this map. I did actually play it a few times. I think like maybe 3 or 4 times, a good handful, in preparation for this video, I suppose, because I have not played very much IWZombies at all. The only map I've played before this YouTube channel was the original, this Zombies in Spaceland. Never bought any DLC for it, but I gotta say, honestly, IWZombies is a ton of fun. In playing this map, I had a ton of fun. Like, I want to play it again sometime, and that's more than I can say about, like, most Black Ops 4 maps when I play them. But yeah, as for this little train situation, obviously zombies spawn here in the corner, just coming out of the ground, and they do actually track to me, which is interesting. I don't think in Treyarch Zombies they would have done that. And as far as the subway tunnel, although it's super dark, so it's kind of hard to tell, it pretty much just cuts off right after the subway train itself. It doesn't exactly extend very far, although there's definitely some interesting things outside the map that we immediately notice, so I guess we might as well address that. First of all, there is this random black box. I have absolutely no clue what this black box is for. There might be some Easter egg stuff where the player just gets teleported to here first, so it looks like a black box in between teleportation. I don't know. And in fact, I don't think there's a teleporter to the map that I know of. I've never used one so far, so you guys might need to let me know down below if you've played this map a lot. But of course, also right below us is the Ghost and Skulls Easter egg, this little arcade machine thing, but I mean, I suppose you're inside the arcade machine, right? With this guy looking down at you, and just like before in the other maps, it's pretty much exactly the same. The only difference, once again, is this background texture, which looks pretty cool, if I might add. Now, back in spawn here, we do have the other direction to go, so we might as well. Let's go ahead and hop on through this barrier. We do have more subway car here, although this one, actually, it's still relatively well modeled, which is interesting, because I don't think you can see it from inside the map. So perhaps maybe they were thinking about having this also be a window location, but decided, let's make a little bit of asymmetry here instead of having it be exactly the same as the other side, and they did this instead. But one thing to note, though, is that this subway tunnel does go much further than the other one, and I imagine this is because of this window location choice, you can see quite a bit more of it, so they wanted to add a lot more ambiance to the situation, make it feel like it's an actual subway tunnel, and I suppose they did a pretty good job at it. Lisa, Alex is gone. Can't stay here any longer. Rations have something? When you return, head for the cabin in Yuma. Love, Caleb. Don't kid yourself, she's already dead. Man, there's a lot of pessimism going on here. Now, we do have a couple more window locations like this in spawn, and it's just kind of a small little area around the corner for them to spawn out of the ground. Nothing too crazy. But perhaps what is kind of more interesting is this out-of-bounds space above us. You don't really notice that it's there, at least I really didn't when playing, but it definitely is, and it adds some extra ambiance as well, making you feel like there is an actual train station somewhere. And we can see it extends relatively far out of the map, so it adds that extra depth as well. Now let's go ahead, hop on into the bank and see what's going on back here. We have a ton of these mailboxes, I suppose. And there's definitely some that are slightly open with some like papers coming out. It doesn't seem like there's anything really interesting written on this. I mean, like most of this is extremely low poly anyway, like you really can't read, but there's a map right there, for instance. And actually, looking at that map, what is that a map of? Strange. And lastly, for this little section, just because I was wondering, there is nothing on the other side of these bathroom doors, unfortunately. And lastly, there is also this little bus terminal section here, just again, adding more depth to the map, but there is nothing around the corner, and it's not a zombie spawn either. Now, before going up to the surface, I feel like it would just make sense to do the entirety of the tunnel system first, and then move on to the streets of New York City. So let's go this way through the door that you need to open with power, and I suppose we do have a window location right here. hop into it and notice immediately it's extremely boring, so let's move on. No offense to that window location, but I imagine there's another one right here. Same kind of situation, and it's cool to see at the very least how they do this, because this looks exactly the same. In fact, I have a feeling that this, like, enclosure here was probably copied and pasted right over to here, making them pretty much identical. Now, I suppose there is this little sewage tunnel to check out, and I just find it kind of cool how it's constructed. Like, the water itself doesn't look like water to me. It looks very disgusting. Which, I mean, I suppose sewer tunnel, I mean, it should be, right? But right here on the rocks, it looks completely clean. And when you get up and close to it, you'll realize what's going on. It's not actually water. This is simply just an effect on the texture. It's an animation that's just playing constantly to make it look like there's water flowing down these rocks, when in reality, the only real water here, if you want to call it real water, is the water here in the tunnel. Which, doesn't look like I can drown in it or anything like that, so kind of unfortunate. And oh my god, on the other end of it, this looks so broken. I mean, I suppose you never would notice this playing the map, right? Because it's basically just out of view for you. Well, I mean, you can kind of see it, actually. Yeah, that doesn't look good. That does not look good at all. But heading on into this area, the big old circle here, which feels boss fight arena-esque, and I imagine that it is. Although, I have no idea. I don't know anything about the Easter egg on this map. But we do have a few little areas to check out. I mean, there's these little pipes, for instance, which, I mean, they don't head up to the surface. In fact, they actually don't head up very far at all. They're cut off almost instantaneously. But as we continue onward to the other side, we got more subway stuff to look at. Yeah. Now, the reason I turned on the power, of course, is because of this guy that comes on through the map as you play, and we can follow it outside the map to see what happens to it. It goes all the way to here, stops when it hits actually a building texture, weirdly drops downward, and then disappears. And, well, what happens to it? It immediately reappears on the other side and awaits its next turn to move, with the animation still playing. And on top of this, we got a little bit of out-of-bounds space over here, which looks much like the other side did. Although, I will note, the tunnel here is a lot longer than the other one, which I'm not entirely sure why that is. You don't really see it, but kind of cool nonetheless. And here is our last train car, and yet again, another much longer tunnel. Okay, so that is the entirety of the tunnel system, so let's go ahead and hop on out through our first door. And I'm immediately wondering whether I can interact with this lady without opening the first door, so let's find out.
I don't mean to stare, but aren't you Pam Greer?
Looks like we can. Right behind the sensei, we do have a cool little space. There's some beads separating the back room, and there's not a lot of modeling right back here. And in fact, we can see right on through the back wall. But nonetheless, I do find it oddly satisfying to walk back here. I'm not sure why, but quite nice. And as far as the sensei herself, she does not have collision. We can just walk right on through her, and the snake here as well. All of this, you just clip right through. Now, as far as window locations in this area, I don't think there's very many. I know there's one right here, so let's hop into it. It's just a little, I don't know, is this like a diner situation? I mean, these chairs make me think diner. These booths, rather, I suppose, make me think diner. But I'm not entirely sure if that's the case. There's some cool artwork here on the wall, I suppose, of New York City, as well as some pictures up here, which, I mean, surely these are developers, right? In the back, we can see that there are some mirrors that do not work, but if we head on outside and look up, we'll notice that there are some windows with some ambient lighting, and it turns out that these are little hidden rooms. You actually can go up here that have collision. They even have wallpaper, but of course, absolutely no modeling. Well, I suppose not absolutely no modeling, because this one does have a picture in the corner, and a door. Although the door obviously doesn't exactly lead anywhere. Just down the street from this building, it looks like the same thing can be said about this one. It has the same kind of little ambient rooms that don't really have much modeling in it, just a little light and some wallpaper. But I suppose what's probably more interesting than all of that is going out behind these buildings, because there is a ton of space out here in the alleyway, and we can walk through pretty much all of it. Albeit there isn't a ton of detail out here, and a lot of these buildings, they do not have collision. You'll just fall right on through the map if you try and go inside of them. Although, you can see this one, it actually does kind of have a ceiling to it, which is kind of cool. And if we continue to walk down the street, there's even more going on. We got some bus going on back here, which with the boards on it really makes you think transit in a way, doesn't it? Unfortunately, it's not in service, though. But continuing on past that, we do have some more streets here. Of course, goes back towards the map that direction. And in this direction, there's just a little bit more of it hidden around the corner, just for some ambiance, I suppose. And there is also some pretty cool graffiti going on, and I suppose a lot of it is repeats. Like, I think this was all inside the subway system, but kind of cool to see that it's out here as well, even though I don't think you'd ever see it. Now, if we head the other direction instead, we get a really cool look at the Brooklyn Bridge, which is only partially made here. I mean, for the most part, it's just the arches, and I suppose the suspension cables as well. But the road itself is very limited, and it doesn't have collision, nor does it have a texture, really. I mean, it's just like metal. But it does continue pretty far into the distance, and there's even part of Brooklyn out here, although it's not exactly made. I mean, there's just some models of buildings, some of them extremely transparent. In fact, there's literally just lights on some of these, which looks really strange. I mean, I feel like I'm in the Matrix right now. But nonetheless, I had no idea that any of this was here when I played the game, so it's pretty cool to see. There's even some details here, like this one that says DeRosa Bank, and also a little window cleaner thing. I don't know what this is called. Pulley elevator window cleaner guy? You know what I'm talking about. I mean, you're looking at it. There's even one of these here, which is really cool for absolutely no reason. I imagine it's just part of the model, right? So they probably didn't add it on there, but maybe, and it's cool that they did. And next to the DeRosa Bank, we also have the Bank of the World. Nice. Okay, can we swim in this game? Probably not, right? I imagine, yeah, definitely no. Unfortunate. Oh, we can catch a glimpse of the train moving on into the subway tunnel from here as well. That's pretty hilarious. And on top of that, it's really strange just looking at how the road ends and below us is just water. And the water on this map, it doesn't look good at all. In that subway tunnel or here, I mean, it looks terrible. But you're never up close and personal to this, so I mean, it serves its purpose, right? And man, is it pretty damn awesome to walk over here. And I'm noticing as well, just looking at the backside of these buildings, like how many little rooms they created just to add to the atmosphere of this map. Like there's tons of these windows that you actually get to see through on this map. And most Call of Duty Zombies maps, this is not the case. Like, this is very rare. It's much more common, I think, in campaign missions, to be honest with you. And it's cool to see that it has made it into IW Zombies. I quite like this. Now, as far as some other details, for instance, the upper level of the dojo, which is kind of cool to walk around, I also wanted to check out just some of these rooftops and just show off the modeling going on that, again, is really difficult to see. Now, you do sort of get a glimpse at some of it when you go up, like, towards the rooftop section over there, but, I mean, for the most part, a lot of this is just out of sight, at least mostly out of sight. For instance, you can see there's, like, this tank here that is just clipped into the rooftop, like over half of it. And honestly, the same can kind of be said about most of these rooftops. The modeling is pretty much identical between them all. I mean, they took like the same 3 or 4 different models and just scattered them in different orientations. Oh my god, it's DeRosa Bank again. And you know what I noticed? There's no window washer elevator thing. Oh, it's on the other side. Okay. That's strange that they would have the side that has the window washer, the extra detail, face away from the map. Not sure why they made that decision. And behind these buildings, we have something extremely iconic, the Twin Towers. Now, of course, this game being set, I think, in the 80s, although I'm not entirely sure what year. Obviously, the Twin Towers are still standing strong, and it's really cool to see them. Of course, there aren't, like, fully made, like there's no roof, for instance, and obviously there is no collision, you just fall right on through them. But either way, it's really cool to get an up-close look at them, and the attention to detail was pretty fantastic, with one of them having the big old radio tower, and the other one not. I think the developers did a pretty good job. Now, we'll get to some more of these iconic buildings in a bit when we get to that side of the map, but before we do, let's go ahead and start making our way through some of these other places. So, for instance, we have this bar here, which has a couple of window locations, one of them being a bathroom. That is extremely run down. There doesn't really seem to be any, like, super hidden details, so let's go ahead and move on out of that, and we might as well, just for the heck of it, check out the other one, but it looks almost identical. Now, one thing I did find quite interesting is the placement of the Fate and Fortune machine. It seems to me that its location was not determined until the very last minute, because if we go underneath it, we can see that there's a ton of props here just sitting in the corner. Like, maybe originally this machine wasn't here, and instead they needed to fill the space with something. And if we head on out the back door of this place, it actually does lead to the alleyway, which is pretty cool. Of course, right above us is playable space, so you get to see down into here quite a bit, but what you don't get to do, of course, is walk around and see some of the extra detailing that was done because of this space. For instance, these doors, this little area. It's pretty cool. It's well lit, although not very well modeled. I mean, there's not a ton going on inside, but cool to see nonetheless. And this alleyway does continue quite far around the corner, actually. It continues and continues until this very liminal looking area, which honestly is probably one of my favorite parts of looking at these maps, is finding these little spaces that you just really don't get to see. But we can see that this alleyway does wrap on through all the way to this playable space, which does have some window locations. Let's go ahead and hop on into this one. It looks pretty plain for the most part, but again, some of the same pictures. A little lamp in the corner, and really nothing around to the left. Now, I could be wrong about this, but there's a pretty strange detail going on here. First of all, there's a door, which has the little symbols on it, right, from the dojo. But on top of that, if we no-clip through it, there's a little space behind the door, almost like you could open it. But on top of that, if we go inside the building, we can see that there's actually some of it constructed. There's some brushes here for walls, although obviously not exactly fully made. But, I mean, I suppose the thing I find strange about this is right above us is another one of these exact same doors. There it is right here, just up at the top. And kind of makes you wonder whether this was something they were planning. And you can see, in fact, this little area here is an addition onto the building. Behind it is just normal building, and on the side of it, there's even some symbols for power. It's just making me wonder whether originally maybe you were supposed to be able to scale this building. It would kind of make sense, but gameplay-wise, it would also make a lot of sense why they would take it out. It seems like it would kind of interrupt things. Man, there is so many of these rooms. It feels like almost everywhere, almost every single building has some sort of little hidden room. I absolutely love this map for that. But continuing on down the alleyway, we do have a door right here. Might as well hop on into it to see if it leads anywhere. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like it does. There's actually a ton of empty space between that alleyway and where the interior of this whole dance floor situation actually begins. And when you head on upstairs, we do have some window locations in this building, although I think a lot of them are extremely similar to all of the other ones that we've seen. This is a trend that I'm starting to find quite annoying in a lot of these newer zombies. I know IW Zombies is not new by any means, but I'm kind of tying it together with Black Ops 4 in this way, because just like Black Ops 4, it seems like the window locations are pretty much all copied and pasted. I mean, not all of them. There's some unique ones, like this one right here, which is a little, I suppose, dressing room, makeup room thing, with some cash money here on the table. Oh my lord. Hey look, it's Noah J's $10,000. But even that window location does indeed have a repeat right here. Although, albeit the modeling has changed significantly, which is quite nice to see. It does look a lot different. And, I mean, an Easter egg? Not sure. But the actual construction of this room is identical to the other one we just looked at. And yet again, Noah J's money. It's still there. But on the bright side, we do have some pretty cool out-of-bounds spaces on the streets, as well as other little places like this, which has some strange things going on up there. Not entirely sure why, but there also is some random props around that we don't get to see, and a newspaper back here, which it's an actual newspaper. This is kind of cool. Absonville Times. I wonder if you can see this other places. You probably can. I imagine so, right? Otherwise, why would they have made this? It's outside the map. You would not see it here, so. Adam players visit hospital. Area farmers have banner year for crops. Moving back to Wisconsin to care for sick mother. Oh my god, that's sad. Oh my god, dude, the clipboard is a Spaceland clipboard. Look at that. That's awesome. It's that same notice to full-time employees that we found in Zombies in Spaceland, just chilling right there within sight. Like, you could totally see that inside the map. I love a little Easter egg. Oh, what is that? What did I just pick up? Yeah, I haven't played this map very much. I'm sure it's showing. I think maybe those are the tokens that you need for other things in the map, but let's keep doing the outside stuff. We got a very bloody toilet. Oh my god. Wait, hold on. Let me just give me 1 second, guys. Let's oh. Yeah. That's sorry about that, guys. That was a very much so needed bathroom break, and I suppose while I'm at it, since I washed my hands, I'm gonna take a sip of the coffee. Because of course, I have my coffee with me here this morning, and I hope wherever you are, whatever time you're watching this, you're enjoying yourself, because I absolutely love this. Although the window locations in IW Zombies here have become a little bit of a disappointment, unfortunately, there are a lot of really cool out-of-bounds details, and I can't wait to check out the other part of the city streets on the other side of the map here in just a second. And I will say, unlike playing the maps of BO4, which I did try out playing, I think, Alpha Omega afterward and absolutely hated it, playing IW Zombies is actually a ton of fun. I wish I played this back in the day more. I mean, I wish I gave it credit. I just didn't. But this is pretty good. Not gonna lie. Zombies in Spaceland, pretty good. Not gonna lie. These maps are really not bad. And credit to IW for making a very good Zombies experience. It's a lot of fun to play, which is a lot more than I can say about Black Ops 4 Zombies, so well done. Now, with that being said, I think there's pretty much only one more window location here for us, and it's not inside of this bathroom, which, again, I mean, kind of funny that there's a ground here. It makes me think that maybe they were going to have a second bathroom here and just, you know, decided not to do it. Anyway, this is the place I was talking about. We got the Inferno room, which is clearly like a little desk situation. We got a mouse, an old computer, as well as more of those Absonville Times. There we go. That's how you say words. There's a ton of files and binders here on the shelves and papers, although it doesn't seem like there's anything super interesting on most of this stuff. Some more of those Spaceland newsletters, but we've seen those already. And scattered around on the floor, as well as the garbage bag, is a lot more cash. Like, a lot of it. No Jay's really giving this stuff out, huh? Man, these zombie contests. But alright, enough jokes. Let's go ahead, hop on out of this building, and we're immediately met with what is a really cool window location. This, again, another little bar, which does have some interesting details to it. For one, right around the corner is a extremely blank space. And on the ground is, again, another one of these somewhat Easter egg-looking situations. I'm assuming this is an Easter egg, right? That says 5, and there's a symbol. Number and a symbol has to be Easter egg related, right? But if we look the other direction, we have this little space, which wraps all the way around the building. Really cool. There's absolutely no reason for this to be here, obviously, other than depth, right? Because I suppose from inside the map, it's nice to have a little bit of depth. But as for it needing to wrap the entire way around, there's no reason for that. But really cool to see that it does. Again, there's some more hidden rooms here with some of the assets down below just clipping through the floor. But hopping on back to the ground here, let's continue on up this way, make our way back towards the section we already checked out. Got a little statue, that's cool. But one thing to note is there is a ton of these out-of-bounds areas here. Some of them, I mean, this doesn't make any sense. Look, there's 2 doors here. Hilarious. I mean, you'd never notice any of these from inside the map, but there's so many little, like, random dev errors in some of these situations. And I just love that. There's something, like, really cool about seeing them and knowing that there's some developer out there that was responsible for it. And if they ever see this video, they're probably like, ah, dang, I really should have deleted that extra door, you know? I absolutely love it. And a lot of these buildings, although it's really hard to see because it's super, super dark, are completely made. There's an entire floor here. We can walk through all of it. It has an entire other room here as well, although there's no door to go between the two. And below us, although again, extremely hard to see, is another floor. I'm not sure if originally we were going to be able to go through some of these buildings. It wouldn't make a ton of sense, to be honest with you, if you could, but it's definitely fun to speculate. And around this corner, we can see some more of this alleyway nonsense leading back towards the area that we've been to before. But as far as I can tell, other than some weird oddities like doors floating off the ground and paintings cocked sideways, there's no other real hidden details to see here. Now, there is a ton of map that I've kind of skipped over, and the reason for that is because it's all on top of rooftops, and the window location on these rooftops, well, they are all pretty much identical. Unlike some of those buildings we went into that had some stylized window locations, here on these roofs, well, they're pretty much all the same. There's like two styles, one like that, and one like the one over here that we saw in the first place. So, yeah, although these rooftops are a ton of fun to play on, the window locations, not a ton of fun to look into. They could have done better with that, not gonna lie. But with the declining popularity in IW Zombies, I just imagine it was a resource thing. They probably wanted to, the developers probably wanted to put more detail into this map. I mean, it's a beautiful map after all, why wouldn't you? But there just probably wasn't enough resources there for them, which is sad to say. Again, really makes me wish that I supported IW Zombies with my wallet a little bit more, that I bought the game when it first came out and got the map packs, because it is a ton of fun to play. But finally, that brings us to this section of the map. The last of the streets of New York City, a ton of buildings to check out, and of course, one really cool Easter egg. This is for sure referencing The Walking Dead, right? I believe the time that IW Zombies came out, The Walking Dead was in peak popularity, and this whole all dead sign is very Walking Dead-esque, and it looks absolutely sick to see it in a zombies game. I love it. Fantastic job by the developers. And to the side of it, we have some pretty cool out-of-bounds space. A little alleyway, adding some ambiance that you can kind of see from inside the map, but, you know, not really. There's some modeling here that it's definitely not visible. But nevertheless, the developers decided to take the time and put in the work here and fill in some pockets outside the map to make it feel a lot more filled for those people who decide to start jumping around and start looking at the little nooks and crannies. But last but not least, let's hop on down into the street and take a look at some of this. I suppose it's probably worth starting off in the area that's closer to the inside of the map. There's definitely some interesting spaces here alongside the walls. There's another one of these doors, which it does look like, again, same kind of situation. And on the other side, there is actually a little store here, which is pretty cool. Of course, you can see through the windows, so that's why. But of course, an addition of ambiance like this is always appreciated, with a bunch of beers here and some gin. I mean, it's mostly alcohol this place is selling, so I guess it's a liquor store. Oh yeah, it is. Alcohol and tobacco. Okay, well, there you go. And of course, we got the lounge with some live girls. Let's go on in. Oh my god! Oh god. And lastly, before we start roaming the streets, we do have this area. The thing that requires a token to go in. Well, I guess it's a flyer to enter this. And then, what, a token to enter one of these rooms, I think, right? Yeah, this. I'm not entirely sure the purpose of any of this stuff. I imagine Easter egg related. But again, I never have done it myself, so I'm not entirely sure. But the legs of a chair are just sticking through a wall right here. That's interesting to see. Oh no, it's this beam. We also got a little bar here, which is pretty cool. It fit with a sponge and all. The detail is awesome to see. I love that. And lastly, we got these two spaces. One right here, which is simply just a staircase up to absolutely nothing. Although it has some pictures here of some fruit behind it that you wouldn't see normally. But we also have this room, which I don't know the purpose. Maybe for a part. Perhaps there's a person that ends up appearing in here on this pole. I'm not entirely sure. But hey, if I ever actually make more episodes for the series Learning Lore, perhaps we'll find out someday. As for these other doors, there is absolutely nothing behind any of them except this one, which is kind of interesting. Now, there isn't actually anything behind the door, but there is this little space right here, pretty much adjacent to it. It's got a couple of cash registers, some more details here with some magazines of some stuff. I'm not entirely sure if there's anything interesting on them, but there's also filing cabinets at the back, and we know those aren't interesting. But it is pretty cool to see, because you can't get a good glimpse into there, but the entire area, I mean, it's pretty well modeled. All right, it's time. Let's go ahead, walk the streets, hop on out of the map, and see what's going on out here. There is a ton of space to walk through. The street just keeps on going, and I mean, really keeps on going. I mean, it just keeps going. There's more and more and even more past this bus. It doesn't stop until finally, all the way here at the end, there's a boat. Look at that. Now, obviously, the situation of having a yacht underneath a road doesn't make any sense whatsoever, but it's really cool to see that it's here. Not sure why, or if it's actually used in this map at any point, no clue, but it's here. You can't see it from inside the map, you would never know it's here, but it's here. The SS Ackridge. In the distance past the boat, there is some more of these low poly buildings chilling about, including one that seems to have met some destruction. There are some that do have labeling on it, such as this Ron building and the Ward National Bank, I guess, as well as the LA National Bank, which looks identical to the other one there. But other than that, I mean, most of these buildings are pretty simple. Cool to see that it's here, and further in the distance, just more and more empty space. Ooh, what's this? A floating piece of texture. Nice. Now, if we fly on back down past the old transit bus here, we can see that along the streets, there is not a lot of detail. It's pretty much the same kind of deal that we've seen before. Some of these buildings having, like, partial interiors in some places, but as you get further out of the map in that direction, of course, none of those, like, windows happen. All of this stuff is just fake, and inside is just an empty shell of a building. But it does give us a chance to just suck in the atmosphere of being in these torn streets of New York City during a zombie apocalypse, and what it would have been like to be able to circle zombies through all of this. It would have been awesome. Although, probably a little bit overpowered, to be honest. I mean, there's a lot of space here. If we head on back inside the map and then hop on over the other side, we get more of these streets to check out. There's another one of these red doors. Let's go ahead and go on through it. Again, empty shell of a building, but worth checking out nonetheless. And pass another one of these transit buses, which actually, this one's not out of order, interestingly enough. We have more and more streets. Continuing this direction, it goes all the way to another intersection, which we do actually have streets heading off in both ways, although this one ends off pretty instant and get a weird look at the bottom of the skybox down there. And the other direction actually leads and wraps back around towards this area, back towards where spawn is. Yeah, I gotta say, this is really fun to explore. I mean, there's a ton of space. Ah, man, New York City streets, just awesome, dude. We've checked out, I think, pretty much all of this already, though, so I suppose let's head on down this way and take the final glance at what we haven't seen, which is this little intersection. It ends off with a little T, and to each side, the road pretty much immediately just cuts off with an upside-down building in the distance. And last but not least, we have the Chrysler building and the Empire State Building. The Chrysler building isn't super well done. It's pretty much just one-sided, but, I mean, the side that you do see is immaculate, I suppose. I mean, it's low poly, but it's well done. And the Empire State Building looks awesome. Almost all of the sides are made, other than the one that faces outside the map. And as you can see, it's made from multiple parts as well. It's even got some extra, like, glow texture to represent the lights that shine on the building. And all the way up at the top, we got the same kind of radio tower that the Twin Tower opposing it has as well. And flying on up into the sky, we can take one last look at this fantastic map. This was a ton of fun to make, but that is it for me, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys enjoyed, and if you did, leave a like down below. It helps me out a ton. And of course, make sure to subscribe so you can come back for more. I can't wait to get some more outside content for you guys. There's a ton of maps and missions and things to do, and I can't wait to cover it all. If you want to watch more of my content, you can click one of the videos on your screen right now, but if not, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Stay awesome, and peace out.